the times are not so different. There's environmental issues. Those were similar to what we're fighting against today, if not more extreme today. A corrupt president. I mean, they had an impeachment, in the 1970s. A lot of the conversations around oil and gas and energy and coal, I mean, all of those conversations carry over to today. So I feel like this podcast is, while it's looking at the 70s and 80s, it feels very current to me. When we were making the podcast, what I really wanted to tell was that story of the Back to the Land movement and the 1970s and 80s and West Virginia, the time and the place, which I thought was so interesting and was such a big part of how we grew up, how my sister and I grew up, which I just think is so relevant to today, especially with the pandemic and people trying to decide, do I want to stay where I am and is this working? And then we brought in the true crime component of Marsha's story, and it felt very natural to combine them. But ultimately, what I'm most interested in is this way of life, and what can we learn from it?
My generation, right, the generation that went back to the land and really was hopeful. I mean, we really believed back then that you needed to take risks. You needed not to be afraid to take risks, even though who knew how it would come out, right? But that it was possible to change the world, which was pretty screwed up back then. It was pretty messed up, and it's even more messed up now, right? And so I hope that people will hear that it's okay to take risks. Like, get a dream, find your dream and live it.
A risk can be as much as saying, the way I'm living doesn't feel good. Whatever your politics are. And I think what I learned from my mom's generation is that they weren't afraid to say, you know what, I feel stuck, I'm just gonna make a change. I'm gonna do something different. Whereas when I feel stuck, I'm like, well, but my kids are in this school, and do I live in a good school district, and how much am I gonna make enough money, and how am I gonna support myself? And they didn't overthink it in that way. They were just like, this isn't working. I don't like the way this feels. I don't like the way I'm participating in society or whatever it is, and we're gonna pick up and do something different. And I think that is a lot of how Marsha was, where she embraced where she was, she embraced the moment, she embraced the community, and she wasn't afraid to make change, and nor was my mom. And I think that's something that I've tried to work on personally, is not being so afraid of change, or just taking little leaps of faith or big leaps of faith.